Part 1. The Arrival. The first snow of December fell without sound, blanketing the town of Blackthorn Hollow like a burial shroud. Sheriff Marcus Kane stood at the edge of Main Street, coffee steaming in his gloved hand, watching the flakes spiral through the orange glow of a dying streetlight. The rest of the town still slept, if sleep was possible in a place that hummed with whispers even when the wind was still. Blackthorn was the kind of town you didn't find on maps. A frozen cul-de-sac at the edge of the Rockies, population 109, if you counted the ones who still breathed. The rest? Marcus had long ago stopped counting them. Inside the sheriff's station, the radiator rattled like bones in a tin box. Marcus dropped into his chair, the wood groaning under the weight of his Kevlar vest and fatigue. His badge, silver dulled by years of ash and frost, glinted faintly under the flickering fluorescent. The morning logs were empty. They always were. No crime here. No visitors. Just the same daily notes. Wolves howling by the tree line. Snow thickening before dawn. Strange light near the lake, again. He poured another cup of burnt coffee, muttering to the silence. Another perfect day in purgatory. And then came the sound. A low rumble at first, somewhere beyond the ridge, mechanical, insistent, alive. It built into a chorus of growling engines, then into a metallic roar that made the windows tremble. Marcus set his mug down slowly, steam curling over his scarred knuckles. "Ty," he called out, voice flat but alert. From the back office, Deputy Tyler, Ty Reed emerged, his brown jacket half-zipped, face half-shadowed by exhaustion. "Tell me that's the snowplow." Marcus didn't answer. They both stepped outside. Across the horizon, cutting through the curtain of snow, came a convoy of black armored buses. Their headlights burned like chemical suns, casting long, unnatural shadows across the drifts. Logos gleamed on their sides, Paranormal Extreme Safari. Each vehicle bristled with antennas, cameras, and reinforced grills designed for terrain that shouldn't exist. "Christ," Ty whispered. "Tourists." The convoy ground to a halt in the square. Dozens of figures in matching black parkas poured out, some with handheld scanners, others hoisting GoPros, thermal drones, even holy water rifles. The words, "World's Most Haunted Adventure live stream tonight," scrolled across their van's lead marquee. Marcus exhaled, his breath turning to frost. They don't know where they are. A man with a headset and fluorescent vest stepped forward, smiling wide like he'd just found buried treasure. "Sheriff. Fantastic. You must be the local contact for our shoot." Marcus didn't move. "You need to turn around." The man blinked. "Excuse me. This town isn't open. It's not even on record." You drove through 4 roadblocks and a closed pass. Behind him, drones rose into the snow like black insects, lenses blinking red. The producer grinned wider. "Exactly. That's the point." Ty's nostrils flared. Marcus could feel it, the restrained growl somewhere beneath his deputy's calm. "They can't be here," Ty said quietly. "The treaty." "I know." Marcus lowered his voice. "Keep your temper. They are outsiders. If they panic, we all burn." "Too late for calm, boss." From the corner of his eye, Marcus saw the fog shift at the tree line, the faintest silhouette, human-shaped, watching. Then it was gone. Ty. Inside. Now. They retreated to the station as the tourists fanned out, filming everything, the boarded-up diner, the snow-cloaked chapel, the frozen fountain where even the water seemed afraid to move. Inside, Marcus picked up the old rotary phone. No dial tone. Static hissed, then a voice emerged, distorted, distant, like a recording underwater. "Welcome to the end of the signal." He dropped the receiver. "Same interference again?" Ty asked. "Worse." "It's not interference. It's someone talking through the dead line." "Who?" Marcus rubbed his temple. "I don't know. But it's getting stronger." Far up the ridge, the snow caves blinked with dim blue light. Inside, Raven Crow adjusted a bundle of cables with fingers glowing faintly green. The elf's irises streamed lines of code as she tracked electromagnetic spikes rippling across her monitors. Someone's broadcasting from Blackthorn, she murmured to herself. Old analog frequencies, vintage tech, pre-digital. That shouldn't even be possible. Her screen glitched, displaying an image that wasn't supposed to exist. A Victorian television set, wood-framed, cracked down the middle, its glass face showing static that slowly coalesced into a grinning skull of white fire. Raven froze. The skull spoke. Entropy welcomes all transmissions. The monitors exploded in a burst of light and glass. When she opened her eyes, the snow around her was scorched into concentric circles, and her own reflection in the ice was smiling back, but her mouth wasn't moving. Back in town, Marcus watched the convoy unpack their equipment like an invasion. A man set up a neon sign reading, "Live from Blackthorn Hollow." "Idiots," Marcus muttered. "They think this is content." Ty cracked his knuckles. "Content's going to eat them alive." The first drone lifted off, scanning the old sawmill by the river. Its feed broadcast to a massive mobile screen on the lead bus. The image flickered with static, then stabilized, showing the sawmill interior. Then a shape moved across the screen. Not quite human. Not quite shadow. Its head turned, directly at the drone's camera. The feed died instantly. Screams erupted as the drone dropped out of the air, smoking. The tourists cheered, thinking it was part of the show. Marcus and Ty exchanged a look. "Lockdown?" Ty asked. Too late. By nightfall, the entire town was a carnival of noise and light. Drones buzzed like locusts. Generators hummed. The tourists toasted marshmallows over barrel fires. And beneath it all, Marcus could feel the heartbeat of the land, slow, resonant, rising. He stood by the fountain, cigarette ember glowing in the dark, when a child's voice spoke behind him. "Sheriff Kane." He turned. A boy stood there, Leo, Maeve's grandson, barely 12, holding a snow globe shaped like a circus tent. "Where do you get that?" Marcus asked. "Found it in the woods." It was playing music. The boy shook it gently. Inside, the tiny tent glowed red. The tune began, a warped calliope melody, cheerful and broken. Then, from the tree line, the fog pulsed, once, twice, as if breathing. "Leo," Marcus whispered, "put that down." The snow globe cracked. A thin line of light spread through the snow. And somewhere deep beneath the ground, something laughed. The storm came down like the sky was trying to bury the town. Snow hit the windows in hard diagonal streaks, wind shrieking through every crack in the old sheriff's station. Marcus Kane sat at his desk again, the cracked snow globe on the table in front of him, its melody long since gone silent. Only the faint ticking of the station clock filled the air. Ty Reed stood by the door, arms crossed, shoulders tense under his brown sheriff's jacket. His eyes glowed faintly amber, a side effect of the wolf inside him stirring when the air smelled of fear. "You know what that thing was," Ty said quietly. "Don't you?" Marcus rubbed his scarred wrist, eyes fixed on the snow globe. "I know what it means. That carnival burned down in 1893. Every performer, every spectator. Nothing but ash. But sometimes, when the snow hits right, the air hums. Like a generator coming back to life." Ty glanced out the window. "And the tourists? What happens when they realize this isn't a haunted attraction?" Marcus didn't answer. He picked up the radio receiver again, a World War II relic that had survived 3 generations of Blackthorn sheriffs. He turned the dial slowly. Every frequency was static, but behind it, a rhythm pulsed, deep, methodical, like a heart submerged under ice. Then, faintly, a voice emerged. "Entropy grows where curiosity breathes." Marcus froze. "Did you hear that?" Ty nodded, every muscle tensing. "Yeah. And I think it heard us too." The lights flickered once, twice, and died. In the sudden darkness, the sound of snow against the window grew louder, but not because of wind. Something was pressing on the glass from outside. Ty flicked on his flashlight. The beam cut through the frost and hit a shape, dozens of handprints, smeared across the window from the outside, each palm dark and wet, as if pressed there by someone bleeding. The power surged back. The radio hissed. The clock stopped ticking. And the phone began to ring. Marcus picked it up. Static crackled. A woman's voice whispered through it, soft, trembling, layered with feedback. "You have to stop the broadcast. He's feeding through it." "Who is this?" Marcus demanded. The voice broke into sobs. "It's not a carnival anymore. It's an infection." The line went dead. Ty looked at him. "You think that was Raven?" Marcus didn't answer. But his jaw clenched. "Gear up. We're going to the ridge." Far above, Raven Crow crouched amid the wreckage of her frozen cave. Sparks spat from broken monitors. She'd replaced her destroyed hardware with salvaged drones scavenged from the fallen tourist gear, jury-rigged with magic, wire, and frost. Her breath fogged as she worked, green digits flowing across her retinas like code script. Come on, she muttered. "If you're going to hijack the town's analog systems, at least leave me a backdoor." The central monitor flickered again, stabilizing to reveal Marcus and Ty trudging through the snow below. Raven smirked faintly. About time the humans showed up. Then her grin vanished. Behind them, something moved through the storm, tall, jointed wrong, pacing like a puppet with strings made of shadow. Raven tapped her wrist link. "Sheriff, this is Crow. You've got company 6 o'clock. Static." She tried again. "Marcus, you're..." The signal cut out. The power in the cave flickered, then flared bright enough to blind her. Her reflection blinked in the monitor, but didn't blink back. "Crow," it whispered, smiling. "You look tired. Let me help you rest." The ice cracked beneath her boots. She dove aside just as the monitor imploded, shards embedding in the wall behind her. Her blood hit the ground, sizzling into black vapor. Entropy's voice filled the cave. "Information is hunger in digital form. And you've been feeding me beautifully." Raven snarled. "Then choke on it." She slammed a fist on her keyboard. The screams went dead, but deep in the circuitry, something laughed. Marcus and Ty pushed through knee-deep snow toward the ridge. The forest loomed like a cathedral of frozen spires, branches heavy with frost. Their breath came in visible puffs, sinking with that same low pulse under the ground, the rhythm neither of them wanted to name. "Feel that?" Ty asked. Marcus nodded. "Heartbeat. From what?" He scanned the darkness. "Not what. Where?" At the crest of the ridge, they saw it, the faint glow of crimson through the storm, pulsing like the heart of the earth. "Raven's Cave is half a mile that way," Marcus said, pointing. They descended, flashlights sweeping across the snow. It wasn't until they reached the valley floor that Marcus realized what they were walking on. Not snow. Canvas. An enormous sheet of circus fabric, half buried in the ice, stretched across the clearing. Ty crouched. "You're kidding me. This thing's the size of a stadium." Marcus traced the faded letters stitched into the fabric's edge. The Entropy Carnival, estimated 1893. Then the ground beneath them pulsed again, once, hard enough to knock them off balance. The snow erupted upward. A tent pole, metal, rusted but unbroken, shot from the earth like a spear, piercing the sky. Another followed. Then another. One by one, the tents began to rise, pulled up from the frozen soil by unseen hands. The air filled with the groan of ancient machinery, the hiss of steam, the faint tinkling of calliope music warped by a century of silence. Ty staggered back, eyes wide. "Tell me this isn't happening." Marcus reached for his pistol, though he knew bullets meant nothing here. "It's starting again." From the town square, the tourists cheered. Cameras flashed. Drones recorded the miracle. The earth trembled as the great carnival of entropy unfolded across the snow, ring tents glowing crimson, banners snapping in the wind, rides rising from the ice like metallic skeletons. One influencer laughed into her livestream. "This is insane, guys. It's like the town's coming alive for us." Her viewers spammed hearts and emojis. None of them noticed the small detail. Her reflection in the livestream wasn't smiling anymore. Marcus and Ty ran back toward the square, the red glow behind them spreading like dawn. Halfway there, the forest on either side moved. Dozens of shadowy figures emerged, too tall, too thin, faces hidden by carnival masks. They shuffled forward in silence, dragging banners that read, "Tonight only, the show returns." Marcus fired a warning shot into the air. The echo vanished instantly, swallowed by the snow. "They're not real," Ty muttered. "Right." Marcus looked at him. "Neither are we, some days." One of the figures stopped. Its mask, a cracked porcelain grin, turned toward them. Then its neck twisted with a sound like splintering ice, and from within the hollow mouth came the voice that haunted every wire in town. "The curtain rises, Sheriff." The figure collapsed into snow. At the same moment, Raven staggered out of her cave, half-blind from the flash. Her wrist console sparked weakly, showing the town's topography as thermal data. A new signal pulsed across the map, expanding outward from Blackthorn's center, fractal and alive. Entropy wasn't just transmitting anymore. He was building a network. Every camera, every phone, every drone, each was a node feeding his growth. Raven grimaced. "You want bandwidth? Let's see how you handle overload." She pulled a shard of glass from her pocket, carving runes into the ice. The markings glowed faintly, binary code mixed with old elvish sigils. "Root command," she whispered. "Entropy, reverse feed." The snow turned black. The ice shuddered. For a brief second, she saw the code breaking, Entropy's connection stuttering like a dying signal. Then he laughed. "You can't reverse decay, child. You can only accelerate it." The runes shattered. The cave filled with light. And far below, the carnival's central tent fully opened. Back in town, Marcus and Ty reached Main Street as the red glow swept across the horizon. People were gathering outside the station, transfixed by the distant lights. The tourists were filming, cheering, believing this was all part of their supernatural experience. Marcus shouted, "Everyone inside. Now." But no one moved. Then came the voice, booming through every speaker, every phone, every car radio. "Welcome, beloved audience, to the rebirth of chaos." The tourists screamed, not in fear, but excitement. The carnival had arrived. The snow had stopped falling. The silence that followed was worse than the storm. From every corner of Blackthorn Hollow, people gathered, locals, tourists, and creatures who had stayed hidden for decades, all drawn by the same strange sound, the heartbeat rhythm of drums and the metallic hiss of steam valves twisting open. By the time Marcus and Ty reached the valley, the carnival stood in full bloom. Canvas tents the color of old blood flapped in a wind that didn't exist. Brass towers rose from the snow like skeletal cathedrals, their gears turning against the laws of rust and time. The main tent, enormous, striped crimson and ivory, pulsed faintly, as though alive, its fabric stretching and contracting with each echo of the drumbeat. And in the center, under the halo of flickering lanterns, stood the ringmaster. He wore a coat of deep maroon, gloved hands clasped behind his back. His face was obscured by a porcelain mask split perfectly down the middle, one half smiling in painted joy, the other weeping streams of black tears. When he spoke, both mouths moved. "Welcome, beloved audience, to the grand reopening of the Entropy Carnival." The tourists erupted in cheers, believing it all part of their live-streamed adventure. Marcus and Ty stood at the edge of the crowd, snow up to their knees, hearts pounding. "That's him," Ty whispered. "That's Giannis." The ringmaster bowed deeply. "Tonight, we honor our eternal sponsor, the one who made all things possible. The one who reminds us that everything, even joy, must die." The ground trembled. From beneath the snow, the faint hum of machinery deepened into a growl. And then, without warning, the carnival lights flared to life, brilliant white flame spilling from the lamps, crackling through the air like thunder. The calliope screamed. The first act had begun. A cannon gleamed in the center ring, polished brass with runes carved along its barrel. Standing atop it was a man with flame-red hair and goggles, Blaze McCoy, the Carnival's human meteor. His smile was wide and too calm for what was coming. "Ladies and gentlemen," Janus called, voice booming from unseen speakers. A century ago, Blaze soared higher than any mortal dared. Tonight, he will touch the stars once more. Marcus recognized the look in Blaze's eyes, that silent pleading of a soldier forced to die again. "Don't do it," he murmured. But the cannon fired. The shot was not a flame but a pulse, a burst of black energy that sent shockwaves through the snow. Blaze's body vanished mid-air, vaporized. The audience screamed. Some cheered. Some began to cry. And then, for just a moment, the snow itself seemed to rain blood. Ty swore under his breath. That wasn't a trick. Marcus gripped his shoulder. "We're pulling the plug. We end the show now." "On what?" "The whole thing's alive." Marcus pointed toward the generator array behind the tents, an enormous power bank humming with unnatural energy. "There. We cut it, we killed the feed." They started moving. But before they could reach it, the world warped. The air rippled like heat haze, the snow shifting under their boots as gravity seemed to twist. Marcus blinked, and suddenly, the carnival was gone. In its place stood the Blackthorn police station, lights flickering, but the walls were bleeding red paint down their sides like veins. Ty's voice echoed somewhere distant, "Marcus. It's the feed, Entropy's rewriting the signal." Marcus stumbled forward, drawing his weapon. "Ty?" He burst through a door, and stepped into a different room entirely. The main tent again. The smell of smoke. Janus stood center stage, mask glistening wet with condensation, or sweat, or something else. Sheriff Kane, both faces said at once. "You have the look of a man who's seen too many ghosts." Marcus raised his gun. "You're under arrest." Janus laughed softly, bowing. "Ah, an arrest. How quaint. Tell me, Sheriff, do you arrest Entropy itself? Or the mirror that reflects it? Where is he?" Marcus demanded. "Where's Entropy?" Janus's voice softened. "Everywhere. You brought him the moment you picked up the badge. Decay follows authority, it loves order too much not to destroy it." The tent canvas behind him rippled like liquid. Faces pressed against it from the inside, screaming, laughing, silent. Marcus fired. The bullet disappeared in midair, swallowed by static. Janus clapped. "Bravo." Then the ringmaster's laughing mask twisted, splitting open into a mouth full of black teeth. The crying half melted, revealing another face underneath, Entropy's own, eyes like twin black holes devouring the lantern light. "You built your walls, your laws, your little illusions," Entropy's voice rasped through Janus's throat. "But even gods can't outlast the end of their own stories." The floor split open beneath Marcus. He fell, tumbling through darkness that wasn't space, but memory. Afghanistan. Fire. Screams. His squad disappearing under the dust storm. The face of the boy he couldn't save, reaching out with burning hands. "Stop it!" Marcus shouted. "You don't know what you're showing me." "On the contrary," Entropy whispered. "It's all you." Then, cold air, light again. Ty's hand gripped his arm, pulling him upright. "You back with me?" Marcus gasped, lungs heaving. What the hell happened? Whatever that was, it hit everyone. The tourists, they are losing it. They are changing. He pointed. Across the field, the tourists were convulsing, their eyes rolling back as their phones continued streaming. The screens showed not their faces, but Entropy's, black eyes, endless grin. They moved as one, shambling toward the stage, chanting the same word. Encore. Raven arrived then, skidding down the ridge on a broken drone board, sparks trailing behind her boots. "You two look awful." Ty barked a laugh. You're late. Blame your vampire internet, she snapped, eyes glowing green. Entropy's not just broadcasting, it's feeding on the signal. Every viewer worldwide's part of the circuit now. How do we stop it? Marcus asked. Raven smirked grimly. Same way you stop any code virus. You flip it back. She reached into her satchel, pulling out a small crystal drive inscribed with runes. This will create feedback, reverse entropy into itself. But it has to be uploaded from the core. Marcus frowned. Where's the core? Raven pointed to the main tent. Dead center. Under the ring. They pushed through the chaos, tourists screaming, tents collapsing, creatures from the woods tearing through the crowd in panic. Inside the main tent, the stage was a living organism, its boards breathing, its lights pulsing like veins. At the center stood a throne made of screens, flickering images of every tragedy ever recorded, wars, plagues, explosions, all feeding into the black vortex that was Entropy's face. He saw them. He smiled. Welcome to the encore. Raven slammed the drive into the generator port. Now. The tent screamed. The air turned metallic. For a second, the entire world inverted, colors shifting, time folding in on itself. Entropy's face contorted, glitching between human, machine, and void. You cannot end decay. You are decay. Marcus raised his revolver, the silver bullets glinting. Maybe. But I can aim it. He fired once. The bullet passed through the screen and into the swirling black, and for a moment, the void bled light. Ty roared, half transformed, claws digging into the ground as he ripped down the cables feeding the throne. Sparks erupted. Raven screamed, it's working. Keep it steady. The vortex convulsed. The lights shattered. Then, everything stopped. The sound, the light, even the snow, frozen in place, like a paused film. Entropy's voice came one last time, calm and almost gentle. Energy never dies, Sheriff. It only changes form. The screen cracked. The entire tent collapsed inward, folding into a spiral of white noise that shrank into nothing, leaving only silence. Dawn found the three of them standing amid the ruins. The tourists lay scattered, unconscious but breathing. The sky glowed grey with the first light. Raven wiped blood from her temple. He's gone. Marcus shook his head slowly. No. Just contained. Ty kicked at a shard of broken glass. It buzzed faintly, faint static whispering beneath the wind. Marcus crouched, lifting it carefully. In its reflection, for just an instant, he saw a flicker, the faint outline of a TV set, cracked and smiling. He pocketed it. Let's clean up, he said quietly. Before the next show starts. Behind them, the last snow of winter began to fall, red as rust. Part 2, The Carnival Awakens. The sky over Blackthorn Hollow looked wrong. Too still. Too clean. Like someone had wiped the color out of the morning. Sheriff Marcus Kane stood in the ruins of what had once been the Carnival's central ring. Now it was a crater, a perfect circle of glassed snow. His breath misted in the cold, curling upward and disappearing before it reached the sky. A few yards away, Ty Reed was crouched beside a half-buried speaker, sniffing it like a bloodhound. His half-human senses twitched at every residual frequency. It's still humming, he said. Low? Below the human range. You feel it? Marcus nodded. Like pressure in my skull. Ty looked up. Entropy's not gone. Marcus scanned the horizon. The tents were gone, but their outlines still lingered, burned into the air like ghosts of fireworks. Every so often, the snow would ripple as if something massive had moved beneath it. Raven said she'd meet us at the station, Marcus muttered. Maybe she's got answers. Ty stood, brushing snow off his gloves. Answers, sure. Or a new apocalypse to debug. They turned back toward town. The main street of Blackthorn was nearly empty. The tourists had been escorted out by the few remaining locals, those still sane enough to leave. The air reeked faintly of ozone and copper. Drone husks lay scattered in the snow like dead insects, their red lenses dim. Marcus passed the diner window and caught his reflection. For half a second, he wasn't looking at himself, he was looking at someone else. A man with hollow eyes and a blood-smeared badge. The reflection mouthed a single word. "Run." Marcus blinked. It was gone. He didn't tell Ty. Some things you didn't say out loud in Blackthorn. Words had a way of becoming real here. Inside the sheriff's station, Raven Crow had built a fortress out of technology and junkyard magic. The room glowed faint green, lit by a dozen cracked screens powered through a salvaged generator. She sat cross-legged on the floor, tapping through data projections that hovered like holograms in the cold air. When Marcus and Ty entered, she didn't look up. "Morning, gentlemen." Or whatever time means now. Marcus removed his gloves, rubbing his hands together. "You said you had something." Raven's eyes, glowing faintly like polished circuit boards, flicked toward them. "I traced the broadcast's feedback path after we collapsed the Carnival. The signal didn't end, it migrated." Ty frowned. "Migrated where?" Raven gestured to one of the screens. Static shimmered, then resolved into a map, an aerial thermal image of Blackthorn Hollow. Every street, every building pulsed with faint heat signatures, branching outward in symmetrical patterns. "Those aren't roads," Marcus said. Raven nodded. "Nope. They are veins. Entropy's using the town's electrical grid as a circulatory system. Blackthorn isn't just haunted, it's becoming alive." Ty muttered, "Fantastic. We're living inside a corpse that learned how to breathe." Raven didn't smile. "And it's learning fast." She turned another screen toward them. It showed security footage from the night before, the tourists being loaded into buses, unconscious but breathing. One frame froze, a woman sitting upright when she should have been sedated. Her eyes open. Her lips moving. Marcus leaned in. "Can you enhance that?" Raven smirked. "You've been watching too many cop dramas." "But yeah." She zoomed in, adjusting contrast. The woman's mouth formed words, though no sound existed on the tape. Raven whispered as she read her lips. "The show never ends." Then the footage glitched. The woman's face flickered, one frame showing her, the next showing something behind her, a shadow shaped like the ringmaster's crying mask. Raven killed the feed. "Whatever's left of Janus," she said, "it's riding the network now." A ghost in the signal. Ty swore softly. "If he's alive, maybe he can tell us what Entropy really wants." Raven shook her head. "Janus isn't alive. He's symbiotic. His body was the stage. His mind was rewritten to balance chaos with performance. Without the Carnival, he's just data looking for a new tent." Marcus looked out the frosted window. "Then we find him before he builds one." Outside, the air had grown heavier, thick, like standing inside a dream before it breaks. They followed the power lines out of town, heading toward the industrial district where Blackthorn's old mining facilities had long since frozen shut. The deeper they went, the more the snow glowed faintly red, as if something beneath it was burning slowly. Ty's nostrils twitched. "Smell that?" Marcus nodded. "Ozone and blood." They rounded the corner and froze. The entire substation was humming, metal vibrating, arcs of lightning crawling over its transformers like electric vines. And in the middle of it stood a single figure, back-turned, wearing a tattered red coat. Janus. Or what was left of him. One side of his body was pristine, the other melted and glassy like molten wax. His voice came in two tones, one deep, one faintly distorted through a speaker. "You shouldn't have stopped the show, Sheriff. Audiences don't forgive a cancelled act." Marcus aimed his gun. "You died." Janus turned slowly. His weeping mask had fused to his face, the porcelain cracked but still crying black tears. "I ended. But endings are merely invitations for sequels." Raven stepped forward, scanner in hand. You're leaking data, Ringmaster. You can't hold physical form. Janus tilted his head. Entropy taught me resilience. I adapt. Ty growled, low and warning. Adapt this. He lunged, claws extending mid-swing, but his hand passed through Janus like smoke. The energy feedback slammed him backward into the snow. Janus smiled. Both halves of his face spoke now, one laughing, one whispering, Entropy doesn't create monsters, Sheriff. He just removes the rules that say we can't be them. Then he dissolved into static. When the light cleared, the substation was silent again. Raven's scanner beeped once. He's not gone. He's splitting himself into frequencies. A digital contagion. Marcus holstered his gun. Then we quarantine the grid. Raven raised an eyebrow. Sheriff, you can't quarantine Entropy. Maybe not. He nodded toward the old mine entrance beyond the ridge. But we can bury it. Ty winced, rubbing his shoulder. You want to cut power to the entire town? You'll freeze everyone to death. Marcus looked at him, ice cold. Better frozen than hollow. They reached the mine by dusk. The wind had stopped. The only sound was the faint mechanical hum that now seemed to echo from underground. The gate was half collapsed, the warning sign long faded, Hawthorne Mine, closed 1956. Marcus pulled his flashlight. Raven, this place still wired. She checked her device. Barely. But the old generators down there feed into the town's emergency grid. If we cut it, Entropy loses his heartbeat. Ty cracked his knuckles. Let's make it flatline. They stepped inside. The mine breathed cold air like a creature sleeping in its cave. Their footsteps echoed for miles, bouncing through tunnels lined with old machinery and rusted carts. After 20 minutes of descent, they found the generator room. And there, waiting for them, was a television set. Victorian. Wooden. Cracked. It shouldn't have worked. But its screen flickered alive as they entered, glowing faint white. Welcome back, it said. Marcus leveled his gun. Raven. She raised both hands. Not me. The TV static pulsed, forming Entropy's outline, featureless, but smiling. Did you think killing my circus killed me? The carnival was never tents and lights, Sheriff. It was pattern. A formula. I live in every failed transmission, every corrupted file, every decayed thought you bury. Ty stepped forward, eyes bright gold now. Then maybe it's time someone bites the signal. Entropy's laugh distorted into digital shrieking. Try. The generator roared to life on its own. Red light washed through the tunnel as the air grew hot. Raven screamed over the noise. He's overloading it. He's trying to detonate the grid. Marcus fired into the TV. Sparks exploded, but the voice kept speaking from everywhere at once. Entropy does not end. It evolves. The generator's turbines began spinning so fast they blurred, the floor vibrating like the earth itself was breathing. Marcus grabbed Raven's arm. Shut it down. She slammed her console into the control panel, magic and code intertwining, sparks raining around her. If this works, the town goes dark. Do it. She pressed the command. The lights died. Total blackness. For 3 seconds, there was nothing, no sound, no air, no thought. Then a whisper, close enough to Marcus's ear to feel the frost of it. You've bought one night, Sheriff. Tomorrow, the carnival remembers itself. And then the generator exploded. When Marcus woke, dawn light filtered through the shattered tunnel roof. Ty was groaning beside him, Raven dragging her burnt console from the wreckage. She looked at Marcus, voice hoarse. We stopped him, for now. But that whisper wasn't a threat. It was a schedule. Marcus stared at the smoking remains of the television. In its cracked screen, the faintest reflection showed a crowd of tents forming once again in the distance, upside down, like a ghost reflection on water. He whispered, then we're already out of time. The storm didn't return that night, but the silence did. And somehow, that was worse. By morning, Blackthorn Hollow looked deceptively normal. The snow lay undisturbed across the streets, the tourist buses sat idle and half-buried, and the mountains beyond stood black and endless under a bruised sky. But something in the town's rhythm had changed. Windows reflected faces that weren't there. Phones rang with numbers no one dialed. And in the air, beneath the wind, came the faint, steady hum of a calliope, the carnival's heartbeat trying to wake again. Marcus Kane stood in his office, staring at the shattered clock on the wall. It had stopped exactly at 6:06 a.m., the minute the generator blew. Every other clock in town now matched it. He rubbed his eyes. He hadn't slept in 30 hours. The bandage on his arm was soaked through, the cut from last night's blast hadn't clotted right. Every so often, the blood shimmered faintly, like static catching light. Ty Reed leaned in the doorway, eating popcorn straight from the bag, his usual nervous habit. The salt smell cut faintly through the cold air. "You ever think," Ty said, crunching, "that this town's been dead a long time and we just didn't notice?" Marcus looked up. "If it's dead, it's dreaming." Ty smirked, tossing another kernel. "Dreams getting loud." At that moment, the lights flickered once. Then again. A faint red glow seeped through the blinds. Marcus opened them, and froze. Across the street, the Old Town Theatre, closed since 1969, had lit up for the first time in half a century. Its marquee blazed against the snow. The Entropy Carnival presents, the second show. By the time Marcus and Ty reached the theatre, a small crowd had already gathered. Locals, shivering and curious. A few of the returning tourists, cameras raised. The front doors hung open, warm air pulsing from inside like the breath of some enormous animal. Marcus scanned the crowd. "Where's Raven?" "She's in the substation ruins," Ty said. "Trying to block whatever's powering this." Marcus nodded grimly. "Good. Because we're walking straight into the next act." They entered. The interior looked nothing like the derelict ruin Marcus remembered. The seats were upholstered in deep crimson velvet, chandeliers glittered above them, and on the stage hung a massive curtain stitched from human-sized patches of fabric, each one faintly moving, as if breathing. The smell was wrong. Sweet. Metallic. Like iron and perfume. From somewhere unseen, a voice drifted down. "Welcome back, Sheriff." Marcus looked up. A single spotlight flicked on, revealing Giannis standing center stage, his red coat freshly pressed, his porcelain mask polished. The right half still smiled, the left still wept black tears. Ty growled low. "You were dust?" Giannis bowed. "I was memory. But memory has teeth." He extended his hand toward the curtain behind him. "May I show you the truth?" Marcus raised his gun. "You can talk from there." Giannis ignored him. The crying side of his face trembled, voice softening. "Do you know what I was before the carnival? Before Entropy made me his ringmaster?" Marcus didn't answer. Giannis's voice became almost human. "A man named Elias Giannis, born 1865. Trained animals. Loved a woman who danced on wires above the crowd. The night the fire took her, I prayed for a way to bring her back. Entropy answered. He gave me immortality, in exchange for control." The laughing half of his mask twitched, speaking over him. "Control is illusion. Performance is survival." The two halves fought each other, voice over voice, laugh over sob, until the entire stage pulsed with sound. Then the curtain rippled. And something stepped through. It was tall, faceless, dressed in sequins that shimmered like oil. Its limbs bent wrong, its joints twisting backward, and its mouth was a flat circle of static. The crowd gasped, and applauded. Marcus aimed, shouting, "Everyone out!" The faceless performer tilted its head, and the air thickened. The exit slammed shut. The chandelier lights turned crimson. Giannis spread his arms wide. "Behold, the resurrection of the show." The performer began to dance. Each movement made the world warp, floorboards stretching, walls pulsing like lungs. The crowd's faces distorted in their phone screens, some began to smile too wide, others wept uncontrollably without knowing why. Ty grabbed Marcus's arm. "She's controlling them." "Not she," Marcus whispered. "It." The thing danced faster. Blood seeped from its feet, each step leaving a footprint that sizzled like acid. Marcus fired. The bullet passed through harmlessly, the hole closing as if the body were made of smoke and glass. Giannis laughed, voice echoing through the rafters. "The Carnival's blood is the town's blood. You can't stop what you already live inside." Ty's eyes flared gold. The wolf inside him surged. He dropped the popcorn bag and flexed his clawed hand. "Then let's give the crowd a new act." He lunged, his body shifting, not fully wolf, but close enough. His claws tore into the dancer's torso. The illusion shattered like glass, fragments of light spraying across the audience. The crowd fell silent. Then began to chant. "Encore! Encore! Encore!" Giannis's smile faded. The two halves of his face flickered in disagreement. "No, no, the show isn't ready yet." But Entropy's voice, smooth, omnipresent, rolled through the theater's speakers. "The audience decides when the curtain rises." The chandelier crashed down. The curtain split open, revealing what lay behind them. An audience of mannequins, perfectly arranged, every one painted with a single red smile. Their hands clapped mechanically. Ty backed up, eyes wide. "Those weren't props." Marcus whispered, "They are the missing." Giannis fell to his knees, shaking. "I didn't want this." He said she'd come back. He promised. The crying half of his mask tore itself away, screaming like metal in pain. Entropy's voice grew louder, warping through every speaker in town. "Promises are currency, Ringmaster. And you spent yours." Giannis's form began to flicker. He turned to Marcus, desperate. "He's using me. The Carnival doesn't feed on death, it feeds on attention. Stop the eyes, Sheriff. Kill the broadcast. Destroy the Watchers." Marcus frowned. "Watchers? There's no one left watching." Raven's voice crackled through his radio. "Wrong. The live stream's back online. Global feed. 3 million viewers and climbing." Ty cursed. "He's feeding again." Marcus looked up at Giannis. "Can you stop it?" Giannis shook his head. "I'm not the ringmaster anymore." "He is." The mannequins all turned their heads toward the stage in unison. Their mouths opened. From within, the static voice of Entropy spoke as one. "The curtain never closes." Then the theater walls began to peel away, transforming, unfolding into fabric, gears, steam, the entire building stretching into a new tent, bigger and redder than before. Marcus grabbed Ty and dove behind a row of seats as the floor dropped out. Raven's voice on the radio screamed through static, "Get out of there. The town's becoming the Carnival." The roof tore open. Above, the night sky swirled crimson and black, clouds twisting into a spiral over Blackthorn. The snow melted in seconds, revealing the Carnival grounds returning, but this time, not from beneath the earth. They were building themselves out of the town. Houses stretched into striped tents. Cars folded into carousels. The church bell tower warped into a spinning Ferris wheel of bone and brass. And through it all, Entropy laughed, his voice resonating from every surface, every reflection, every piece of glass. "You wanted the truth, Sheriff. The truth is spectacle. The end is just good theater." Marcus looked at Ty. "Find Raven. We end the signal or the whole world becomes the show." Ty nodded, teeth bared. "On it." Marcus turned back to the stage, where Giannis knelt among the mannequins, one hand clutching his bleeding face. "Giannis," Marcus said softly. "You want redemption? Help me close the curtain." Giannis looked up, both halves of his face trembling. "Then follow me to where it began, beneath the ring." The floor cracked. And beneath them, the faintest sound of applause echoed up from the abyss. The air beneath Blackthorn Hollow was thicker than smoke. It wasn't darkness, it was pressure. It pulsed, faintly, like something alive. Marcus Kane followed the thin beam of his flashlight down the spiral stairwell beneath what had once been the theater stage. Behind him, Janus limped, one half of his porcelain mask missing, the other gleaming in the glow. Tyreed brought up the rear, his breath steady but strained, the animal inside him restless. They descended for what felt like miles. The stairwell was carved from compacted earth and old brick. At intervals, faded Carnival posters were embedded in the walls, advertisements for acts that had never existed: The Girl Who Breathed Time, The Fire Eater of Memory, The Serpent Who Sings. Every few steps, the walls twitched. Ty growled low. "You feel that?" Marcus nodded. "The ground's alive." Janus spoke softly. "No. The Carnival's heart lies below. The ring's true stage. It beats when Entropy dreams." At the bottom, the tunnel opened into a cavern so vast that their flashlights couldn't reach the far side. The floor was metal, corrugated, humming faintly. The air smelled of ozone, sugar, and blood. In the center of the cavern stood a ring of black steel, suspended in the air by cables of light. Within it spun a slow vortex of smoke and data, fragments of images flashing like memories being burned in reverse: wars, floods, laughter, birth, decay. Marcus whispered, "The hollow ring." Janus nodded, his voice split between reverence and terror. "The source. Entropy's stage. Every act begins and ends here." Ty stepped forward, hand on his gun. "Then let's close the curtain." Janus raised a trembling hand. "No bullets, beast. The ring doesn't obey your physics." Marcus ignored him. "Raven, you reading this?" Her voice crackled through the radio, faint but alive. "Barely. You're inside a black zone, Sheriff. Energy signatures are off the charts. I can see your vitals but not your surroundings. Feels like you're walking through static." Marcus looked at the swirling void. "That's one way to describe it." Raven said, "You'll find a control core at the ring's base, an anchor node. If we overload it, the loop collapses." Ty smirked. "Collapse the Carnival." "Got it." They advanced toward the platform. The closer they got, the louder the hum became, until it was no longer sound but vibration. Marcus's teeth rattled. His vision blurred. He could see the frequencies now, thin strings of light connecting his body to the ring. "Careful," Janus hissed. "It remembers you." "What do you mean, remembers?" Janus looked at him, eyes flickering red and white. "You've played your part before, Sheriff. Every generation needs its skeptic. You wear the badge, you draw the line, and you fall trying to hold it. That's the story Entropy loves most." Marcus glared. "I'm not part of any story." "Neither was I," Janus whispered. "Until he wrote me into one." The hum deepened. The ring began to turn faster, the black smoke within it stretching into a shape, vague, humanoid, massive. Entropy's voice filled the cavern. "So, curtain call survivors. Tell me, did you like the first act?" The air vibrated with laughter. Ty snarled. "You're not real." "Not real?" The voice deepened into a roar. "I am the law of endings. The glitch in every heartbeat. I am gravity's hunger made language. I am what comes after." Marcus steadied his aim, though his arm shook from the pressure. "You feed on attention, right? Then look at me." The vortex focused, eyes opening like twin eclipses. "Ah. The Sheriff. The loyal fool. The man who thinks bullets can kill Entropy. You should have stayed in your desert war, Marcus Kane. You understood Entropy better there, every battle unwinding faster than it began." Marcus felt the heat of the desert flash behind his eyes. Screams. Dust. The boy's hand reaching for him again. He growled, "Get out of my head. Your head is a theater, Sheriff. I'm merely the audience. The ring pulsed. Light flared. Raven's voice cut through the static. Marcus. The ring's energy readings just spiked. Whatever it's doing, it's rewriting physical constants down there, light speed, gravity, maybe even time. You've got minutes before it consumes the town's grid again. Marcus barked, tell me how to stop it. Raven, there's a console, something physical anchoring the loop. Destroy that and the system crashes. Marcus scanned the shadows, and saw it, a console built into the ground, glowing blue-white. Ty? Ty lunged toward it. But before he could reach it, the floor shifted, dozens of cables of light bursting upward, coiling around his legs. He roared, shifting partially into his werewolf form. His eyes glowed gold, his teeth lengthened, but the cables held him fast. Go, he snarled. Finish it. Marcus fired at the cables, bullets passing through like light through smoke. Janus watched in silence, then said quietly, I can free him. But it'll cost me. Marcus turned. What do you mean? Janus smiled, the cracked half of his face flickering like static. Entropy needs a ringmaster. Without one, the story stops. He'll try to make another. Unless I give him myself. Janus. The ringmaster stepped forward, blood and code leaking from his seams. A final act, Sheriff. Let the crowd remember me kindly. He spread his arms wide and screamed. The cables recoiled. Ty collapsed, gasping. Janus fell to his knees, light pouring from his mouth and eyes. His voice layered into two tones again. Every circus needs a closing act. Then he was gone. His body dissolved into red dust that rose into the air and was swallowed by the ring. Entropy's laughter returned, but it faltered. He gave me form again. Foolish. But noble. Marcus pulled Ty to his feet. You good? Ty coughed. Ask me after we don't die. Raven's voice, Sheriff, energy output dropping, whatever you did worked, but Entropy's still here. You need to pull the core. Marcus holstered his weapon and sprinted to the console. Its surface flickered with data like living circuitry. Words scrolled across it in perfect red script. Do not interrupt the show. He drew his knife and drove it into the screen. Sparks flew. The hum spiked to a scream. The ring convulsed, twisting inward. Entropy's voice fractured. You cut my stage, Sheriff. But you can't cut the audience. The smoke exploded outward, filling the cavern. Images flashed in it, millions of faces, all watching, all smiling. For a heartbeat, Marcus realized what Entropy meant, the viewers. The live stream still running somewhere beyond the town. Raven shouted through the comm, Marcus. He's right. You have to cut the uplink. The feeds. Static swallowed her voice. Ty's hand grabbed Marcus's shoulder. There. At the far wall, a glowing line of red light traced up into the ceiling, a data uplink conduit. Marcus raised his revolver, silver glinting in the dark. He whispered, curtains closed. He fired. The conduit exploded. The ring shrieked, collapsing inward. The vortex folded in on itself, imploding into a point of light no bigger than a coin. And then, silence. No hum. No pulse. Just the smell of burnt metal and cold air. When Marcus opened his eyes again, he was lying in the snow. The theater was gone. The carnival, gone. Only ash and frost remained. Raven sat nearby, bruised, coughing smoke. Ty stood over her, human again, his eyes bloodshot but alive. She looked at Marcus. You shut it down. Entire grid's dead. Blackthorn's offline. Marcus sat up slowly, staring at the horizon. Good. Then Ty said, quietly, Sheriff. Marcus followed his gaze. There, half buried in the snow, was a single object, an old television, cracked but intact, its screen faintly glowing. A voice, soft and amused, drifted from it. You can't close Entropy, Sheriff. You can only delay the applause. The light died. Marcus holstered his weapon. Then we buy the world some silence. Raven muttered, for how long? He looked at the distant mountains, where dawn broke in pale gold across the ice. Until the curtain rises again. Part 3, The Collapse. Blackthorn Hollow slept for 3 days. No one could tell whether it was exhaustion or enchantment. Snow fell in complete silence, covering what was left of the town, the crater where the theater had stood, the scorched marks in the street, the frozen carnival banners half buried in ice. Every electronic signal was gone. No cell service. No radio. Not even static. It was as though the universe had muted the frequency of this place. Sheriff Marcus Kane sat in the ruins of the old station, scribbling notes in a weathered logbook. His handwriting trembled, each line breaking like the voice of someone who'd seen too much. Day 3. No signs of Entropy's return. Locals restless. Ty says he hears things at night. Raven's trying to repair one of the monitors we found by the lake. The snow isn't melting. It's crystallizing. He looked up at the ceiling, where the frost had formed a faint spiral. It wasn't random. It was the same spiral that had appeared on the circus banners, the same pattern burned into the earth after the ring collapsed. He exhaled slowly. It's not over. Outside, Ty Reed was standing in the middle of Main Street, shirtless despite the cold, letting the snow gather on his skin. His breath came in sharp, animal bursts. He stared toward the tree line, where fog still clung to the pines. Raven approached carefully, arms wrapped in a silver-lined coat. Her green eyes glowed faintly, residual magic from her earlier link to the carnival signal. You should be resting, she said. Ty didn't move. Can't sleep. The air smells wrong. Everything smells wrong now. He turned his head slightly. No, you don't get it. The wind's carrying something. Like burnt sugar. Like the carnival again. Raven's stomach tightened. Impossible. The ring's gone. Entropy's code collapsed. Ty pointed toward the woods. Tell that to the music. And then Raven heard it, faint, but real, the echo of a calliope tune, drifting from the trees, carried by the wind. They locked eyes. Ty whispered, it's starting again. By nightfall, the survivors gathered in what was left of Maeve's Tavern, the only building still structurally sound. The light came from candles and a few solar lanterns Raven had hacked together. There were 10 of them now. Farmers, a couple of firefighters, the schoolteacher, even young Leo, clutching his broken snow globe. Marcus stood before them, arms crossed, voice low. You all know what we're facing. It's not ghosts. It's not demons. It's something older. It's what happens when the world starts watching itself fall apart. One man muttered, then why are we still here? Marcus didn't answer right away. Because if we leave, it spreads. Entropy's stuck here, for now. But if anyone broadcasts again, if anyone reconnects a signal, he'll ride it straight back out into the world. Raven added, he's not a thing. He's a system. A pattern of decay. He eats noise, chaos, attention. The live stream gave him billions of calories. Leo whispered, can he hear us? The candles flickered. Everyone went silent. Marcus said quietly, only if we speak his name. Later, when the others slept, Raven worked in the tavern basement by lantern light. She'd salvaged a cracked monitor from the wreckage near the lake, a vintage CRT screen, its glass spider-webbed with cracks. She'd told Marcus she meant to destroy it. But she hadn't. It still hummed faintly, like a dying heart. She connected it to an old power cell, wires sparking. The glass flared once, then stabilized. Static. Then, faintly, a reflection appeared, not hers, but Marcus's, sitting somewhere else, head bowed, whispering to no one. Raven leaned closer. Marcus. The reflection looked up, and smiled, just a little too wide. Wrong Marcus. She fell backward, knocking over the lantern. The flame sputtered, smoke curling up the stone walls. The reflection continued, its voice now lead, echoing through the room. Entropy doesn't die. It converts. You should know that, little hacker. You read code, don't you understand? Information never disappears. It only corrupts. Raven grabbed a crowbar and swung it at the screen. The glass shattered. But from the shards, faint threads of black static rose into the air, slithering toward the ceiling. Not again, she whispered. Upstairs, Marcus was jolted awake by Ty's shout. Sheriff. Basement. They crashed through the tavern doors to find Raven gasping on the floor, surrounded by a halo of broken glass. The air smelled of ozone and burnt metal. Marcus knelt beside her. What happened? Raven opened her eyes, pupils flickering like glitching pixels. He's adapting. The Carnival's still alive, in the code, in the frequency. The TV wasn't a relic. It was a transmitter. Ty looked around. Then where's the signal now? Raven stared upward. Everywhere. Outside, the snow began to glow faintly red. Hours later, Marcus climbed the church hill to check the old radio tower. Its skeletal frame loomed against the night sky, half collapsed but still standing. Wind howled through the rusted beams. The stairs were slick with ice. He climbed anyway, flashlight clenched in his teeth. Halfway up, the beam caught something carved into the metal, new words etched by a hand that shook. Every show deserves a sequel. The handwriting was his own. Marcus froze, heart pounding. He hadn't written it. A cold laugh echoed from above. Sheriff, a voice purred. Miss me? He raised his gun instinctively, scanning the darkness. Show yourself. From the top of the tower, a silhouette stepped into view, Janus. Or what was left of him. His red coat was in tatters, one half of his face a melted smear of glass. But his eyes burned with new light. Impossible, Marcus whispered. Janus tilted his head. Entropy never discards a good character. He just recasts them. Marcus steadied his weapon. What do you want? To end the waiting, Janus said. The Carnival's hungry again. And you, dear Sheriff, are still its main act. Lightning flashed. For a heartbeat, Marcus saw that Janus wasn't standing on the platform at all, he was hovering, suspended in tendrils of light that pulsed like veins. Then the storm broke. Marcus fired, once, twice. The bullets ripped through air. Janus's form exploded into ash, vanishing into the night. And yet, somewhere in the distance, the calliope began to play again. When Marcus stumbled back into town, soaked in sleet, Raven and Ty were waiting. The sky above them shimmered faintly, like the static of an old television. Raven said, You saw him, didn't you? Marcus nodded. His back. Or what's left of him. Ty growled, Then we burn it all. The town, the tower, everything. Marcus looked out toward the lake, where a faint light pulsed beneath the ice, steady, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. He shook his head slowly. No. We finish it where it began. In the ring. Raven frowned. The ring's gone. Marcus's eyes stayed fixed on the glowing lake. No. It just changed shape. Far beneath the frozen surface, something stirred. Metal gears ground together. Fabric stretched. A single spotlight flickered to life, pointing upward through the water. And in that ghostly light, the reflection of a tent formed, massive, inverted, spinning slowly beneath the ice. Inside it, thousands of shapes began to move. The Carnival hadn't died. It had only flipped, its stage now below, it sealing the surface of the world. The second act had begun. The next morning, Blackthorn Hollow was silent again, too silent. No birds. No wind. Even the sound of the river had stopped. Sheriff Marcus Kane stood by the frozen lake, his breath fogging the air, his reflection trembling faintly on the glassy surface. The ice was perfectly smooth, unnaturally so, like someone had polished it from below. Behind him, Ty Reed approached, heavy boots crunching through frost. His jacket was unzipped despite the cold, the wolf in him unfazed by the temperature. "You sure this is where you wanna die?" Ty asked. Marcus didn't look away from the water. "It's where it started. It's where it ends." Raven Crow joined them, carrying a bundle of gear, cables, small monitors, and a silvered respirator mask that shimmered faintly with runes. Her skin looked paler than usual, her eyes rimmed red from nights without sleep. "I ran a pulse scan," she said, kneeling by the edge. "There's a cavity about 50 meters down. Massive. Geothermal readings say it's not water anymore, it's energy. The whole lake's turned into a mirror array." Marcus frowned. "A what?" Raven looked up. "Think of it like a reflection factory. Every image, every thought, every viewer that Entropy ever consumed, stored down there, replaying in an endless loop. He's rebuilding himself." Ty grunted. "Then we break the mirror." Raven shook her head. "You can't break a mirror from outside. You have to step inside it." Marcus smirked, bitterly. "Figures." He turned, scanning the horizon, the faint outlines of the ruined Carnival tents, half frozen in the snow. "We go down. Find whatever's left of the ring. End it for good." Ty rolled his shoulders. "You know what they say, boss. Third time's the charm." Raven adjusted her gear. "Or the curse." They suited up. Raven's respirators were designed for magical feedback, each mask etched with binding sigils scavenged from old church bells and military tech. The oxygen tanks hissed faintly as she sealed Marcus's harness. "Stay close," she said. "Once we're under, no light except what I give you. No talking unless you have to. Sound travels weird in mirror space." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Weirder than usual?" Raven didn't smile. "Much." Ty cracked his neck. "If this place starts whispering, I'm punching someone." "Just make sure it's not me," Marcus said. Raven switched on her scanner. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. They stepped onto the ice. It didn't crack. It yielded, softening like glass under heat, folding inward, pulling them down without sound or splash. For a moment, there was nothing but weightless falling. Then light, dim, silver, infinite. The three landed gently on a reflective surface that wasn't solid or liquid, it was like walking on the underside of reality. The world above shimmered faintly above them, reversed, distant. Around them stretched a vast expanse of inverted tents, the Carnival reborn beneath the lake, suspended upside down, each tent's fabric rippling like liquid mercury. Marcus whispered, "Jesus." Raven shook her head. Not his territory. The tents pulsed faintly, each one reflecting something different, a memory, a dream, a broadcast frame from the old live stream. In one reflection, Marcus saw himself, younger, in uniform, holding a dead soldier in his arms. In another, Ty saw his mother, human eyes, wolf's mouth, whispering something he couldn't quite hear. Raven's reflection was the strangest. It was her, but mechanical, her face made of wires and glass, smiling a fraction too wide. She tore her gaze away. "Don't look too long. They feed off recognition." They moved deeper. The path curved downward into a massive dome, where the inverted big top awaited them. Its spires were made of frozen lightning, its walls stitched from countless mirrored shards, each one flickering with a different face. And in the center of the dome, suspended in midair, was the hollow ring, reborn. It spun silently, but instead of black smoke, it was now made entirely of reflections, swirling fragments of everything Entropy had consumed. Marcus stepped forward. "That's it." Raven's scanner went wild, the readings flickering out of range. "No way. The energy here's rewriting the physics around us. We're standing in a recursive loop, reflections reflecting reflections. If we stay too long, we'll become copies ourselves." Ty cracked his knuckles. "Then let's make it quick." But before they could take another step, A voice spoke from behind them. Leaving so soon? They turned. Janus stood there, pristine again, mask repaired, coat gleaming crimson. But his shadow moved differently, lagging behind him by a second, as though the reflection and the body had split. Marcus drew his gun. You died. Janus tilted his head. Did I? Or did I just switch mirrors? Raven hissed, he's not real. Just a projection. Janus smiled, both sides of his face now identical, serene, human. Everything's projection. That's the beauty of it. Entropy understood that before the rest of you. He's not a monster, he's evolution. The world doesn't end in blood. It ends in reruns. Marcus lowered his weapon slightly. Then why talk to us? Because every show needs its audience, Janus said softly. And you three? You're the last ones left who still remember the script. Ty lunged. His fist connected, or should have. But Janus shattered into 1,000 shards of glass that immediately reassembled behind him. Temper, Janus chided. Didn't your wolf mother teach you better manners? Ty growled, claws half-formed. She taught me how to kill ghosts. Janus's smile widened. Oh, Sheriff, you should know by now. You can't kill Entropy. And then his body fractured completely, collapsing into a spiral of glass that flowed upward into the hollow ring. The reflections began to scream. Faces pressed against the mirrored walls, whispering Marcus's name. Dozens, hundreds, the dead, the missing, the forgotten. Their eyes glowed with faint static. Raven backed up, voice shaking. He's using memory as fuel. They are all fragments of us. Marcus grabbed her arm. You can shut this down, right? She hesitated. Not from outside. The core's inside the ring. Ty looked at Marcus. Guess that's our cue. Marcus nodded. Then we stepped through. Raven shouted, wait. But it was too late. Marcus and Ty ran forward, breaking through the surface of the ring like divers plunging through water. Raven screamed as they vanished, the reflection swallowing them whole. Inside, the world was nothing but light and sound, distorted, infinite. Marcus found himself standing on a bridge of glass, surrounded by visions of Blackthorn in every era, the 1800s mining town, the 1920s circus hub, the modern ghost town. Each layer folded over the next, history looping endlessly. Ty appeared beside him, his body flickering between forms, man, wolf, both. Where the hell are we? Marcus looked around. Inside the story. Then Entropy spoke, not from one direction, but all of them. Welcome home, Sheriff. The bridge rippled, and from the void rose the shape of Entropy, reborn, a figure made of collapsing universes, his form flickering between man and machine, shadow and light. His face was a smooth void, eyes like twin event horizons. You broke my stage, he said. So I built a bigger one. Marcus raised his weapon. You're not feeding this time. Entropy laughed. The sound shook the bridge. On the contrary. You brought me more fuel. Every moment you remember, every nightmare you cling to, all of it becomes mine. Ty's eyes glowed. Then take this memory. He lunged, claws raking across Entropy's torso. The creature rippled like liquid, absorbing the blow. For a split second, Ty's reflection appeared inside its chest, then disappeared. Entropy whispered, "You're already part of me." Marcus fired. The bullets froze midair, then dissolved into light. Violence is an old trick, Sheriff. Try something new. Marcus gritted his teeth. Fine. He lowered the gun, stepped forward, and said quietly, "You want attention? Then you get mine." Entropy tilted his head. Explain. Marcus smiled faintly. Every performer needs an audience. But what happens when the audience stops watching? Entropy paused. Raven's voice suddenly echoed faintly through their comms. Marcus, I'm rerouting the feed, turning it inward. The reflections are about to show himself. Entropy's body flickered. For the first time, he looked uncertain. What are you doing? Raven whispered through the static, every mirror sees the other now. Infinite recursion. Infinite entropy. The light brightened until Marcus couldn't see. The reflections began to devour themselves, folding in tighter and tighter. Entropy screamed, not in pain, but in fury. You think this stops me? I am the collapse. The voice cut off as the ring imploded. Marcus gasped and found himself lying on the ice again, coughing cold air into his lungs. The surface beneath him was solid now, no glow, no sound. Just frozen water. Ty was beside him, barely conscious, frost clinging to his hair. Raven stood over them, pale and trembling. You did it. The mirrors are gone. Marcus sat up slowly. Entropy? She looked down at the ice. Trapped. For now. Marcus touched the frozen surface. Beneath it, faintly, he thought he saw his own reflection blink, out of sync. The morning after the implosion, Blackthorn Hollow looked almost normal, as if nothing had happened. The sky was clean. The snow glittered like powdered glass. The wind had returned. And yet, silence lived beneath every sound. Sheriff Marcus Kane stood at the edge of the frozen lake, his breath forming small, ghostly clouds. His reflection stared up at him, still, unblinking. It should have copied his movements. It didn't. Behind him, Raven Crow adjusted her repaired scanner, its green runes flickering weakly. Ty Reed, human again, leaned against a snowbank, exhausted but alive. So, Ty muttered, we won, right? Marcus didn't answer. His reflection was still wrong. Raven squinted at her readings. The energy spikes are gone. Entropy's matrix collapsed completely. Marcus interrupted softly. Look at the ice. They followed his gaze. Beneath the surface, faintly, a single spotlight glowed. The same crimson light that had haunted the Carnival's big top. It pulsed in slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. Raven stepped closer, her breath catching. That's impossible. The ring's gone. There shouldn't be. Marcus knelt, brushing the snow away with his gloved hand. The ice was perfectly transparent here, and what he saw beneath it made his stomach twist. It wasn't just a light. It was himself, another Marcus, standing upside down under the surface, staring back, eyes wide and hollow. And when he blinked, the reflection didn't. They made camp that night in the old church, the only place still standing. The stained glass windows were fractured, the crucifix blackened by smoke. Raven sat near the altar, tools spread out in neat rows, muttering calculations under her breath. Ty paced restlessly, energy still burning through his veins. Marcus stood apart, staring at the flickering candles. Finally, Raven looked up. You've been quiet. Marcus turned, his eyes dark. What happens when the reflection doesn't need the mirror anymore? Raven frowned. Meaning? Marcus hesitated, then said, he's not trapped. He's waiting. Entropy's using me. Ty snorted. You sound paranoid, boss. Marcus's voice rose, rough and low. You didn't see it. I looked right at him, Ty. He was standing under the ice, breathing in my rhythm, like he was learning me. Raven shook her head. That's impossible. We broke the recursion loop. The reflections can't replicate anymore. Marcus slammed his fist into the pew, splintering it. Then tell me why I still hear applause. The sound echoed through the church, soft and distant, the faint, mocking clap 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 of 1,000 invisible hands. Raven's face drained of color. Oh no. The stained glass windows shimmered. The images within them, angels, saints, demons, began to move. Their painted mouths smiled. Their eyes rolled toward Marcus. The sound of the calliope returned, faint but distinct, playing through the wind like a distant lullaby. Ty's claws extended instinctively. His back. Raven whispered, no. His you. The candles went out. Darkness swallowed the church. When the first light returned, it wasn't candlelight, it was stage light. Marcus blinked, and suddenly the pews were gone. The walls were red and gold. He was standing in the middle of a ring of light, surrounded by an unseen audience. A banner overhead read, "The Entropy Carnival presents, the final act." His breath hitched. "No?" A voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, familiar, mocking, patient. "You never left the show, Sheriff. You just thought you did." Marcus spun around. The crowd was invisible, but he could feel them, eyes in the dark, endless, watching. He shouted, "Show yourself." The voice laughed. "I already have." A second figure stepped into the spotlight, Marcus Kane, identical, flawless, his uniform unstained, his badge polished to a mirror shine. The reflection smiled. "You're the story, Sheriff. The tragedy. The man who thought he could fix decay. But decay isn't broken, it's beautiful." Marcus raised his gun, hand trembling. "You're not me." The reflection tilted his head. "I'm the version that stayed behind when you crawled out of the mirror. You left me here to rot. So I became something better." He spread his arms. The entire tent flickered like a dying signal. Entropy needed a new host. You gave him one. Marcus staggered backward. "No?" "Yes," the reflection whispered. "You fed him every doubt, every sleepless night, every need to make sense of chaos. You made him believable." Raven's voice echoed faintly, as though through static, "Marcus, listen to me, he's merging with you. If you engage, he wins. Don't fight him." But Marcus couldn't hear her. The calliope drowned everything out. His reflection circled him slowly, smiling. "You see, Sheriff, the show never ends because people like you keep trying to rewrite the ending." Marcus shouted, "Then let's finish it." He fired. The bullet passed through the reflection, and hit his own shoulder. Pain flared white-hot. He fell to his knees, gasping. The reflection laughed, the same voice, doubled, echoing forever. "You can't kill what's made of you." Meanwhile, above the lake, Raven and Ty stood helpless, watching the ice fracture in spirals. Raven's scanner flashed red. He's caught in a recursive overlay. Entropy's rewriting his neural pattern, turning him into the next ringmaster. Ty grabbed her arm. "Then pull him out." "I can't." "The link's inside his consciousness. The only way to stop it is." Ty's eyes narrowed. "Is what?" Raven looked at him, voice shaking. "To break the host." Ty's expression hardened. "No. It's the only way." He bared his teeth. "Then I'll go in." Before she could stop him, Ty plunged his claws into the ice. It split open instantly, swallowing him whole. Inside the tent, Marcus was losing. His reflection had grown, its form now shifting between flesh and shadow, eyes glowing with infinite horizons. "One last round of applause," the reflection whispered. Then Ty crashed through the mirrored floor like a comet, slamming into the doppelganger and knocking it backward. Marcus gasped. "Ty, how?" The werewolf grinned, eyes burning gold. "Didn't wanna miss the finale." The reflection hissed, voice overlapping with Entropy's. "Another beast in the spotlight." Predictable. Ty lunged, claws tearing through light itself. Each strike peeled away a layer of the reflection's body, beneath it was nothing but static and screaming faces. Marcus stumbled to his feet. "Raven." "Now." Her voice came through the chaos, channel open. "I'm flooding the loop with feedback." The lights in the tent flickered violently. The air shimmered, melting. The audience began to dissolve into light and dust. Entropy's voice grew distorted, furious. "You can't mute Entropy. You can only..." Marcus grabbed Ty's shoulder. "Hold him." Ty locked the reflection's arms. Marcus raised his revolver, loaded with the last silver Entropy round Raven had forged. He whispered, for silence. He fired. The bullet hit the reflection's chest. For an instant, all sound stopped. Then the world inverted. The tent collapsed inward. The mirrors folded. Every light went dark. When Marcus opened his eyes again, he was lying on the shore. The lake was gone. Only a crater of frost remained. Raven crouched beside him, tears freezing on her cheeks. Ty lay nearby, unconscious but breathing. Marcus sat up slowly, wincing. The world was quiet, truly quiet, for the first time in years. He looked around. Is it over? Raven nodded. Entropy's gone. No pulse. No reflection. Marcus exhaled, closing his eyes. Good. She hesitated. Marcus, your reflection, it didn't come back. He smiled faintly. Maybe it's better that way. She looked down at the snow. And Ty. He's earned his rest. Marcus stood, staring at the horizon where dawn touched the mountains. The sky was a clean, soft grey. Peaceful. But then, faintly, behind him, the sound returned, a soft click, like an old television turning on. He turned. Half buried in the snow lay a small CRT screen, cracked but glowing. On it flickered a single image. Marcus Kane, standing at the lake's edge, staring into the ice. And then, faintly, from the speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending the Entropy Carnival. The screen went dark. Marcus closed his eyes, the wind cold on his face. He whispered, curtains closed. A pause. Then, faint, almost imagined, the sound of a single, slow clap echoed across the valley.